Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. This is episode number 57. No, 58. Sorry, 58. Mixed up there a little bit. But alongside me is former Major League Baseball player, former resident here. The family still lives here in the Sarasota area, Brian McRae. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, thank you. By yourself?
Hanging in there. What can we say? Another day you live, right, with the coronavirus around still. I mean, it's another day. Hate to say that, but it's true.
Getting a little bit better. People are traveling, getting out, doing more. Restrictions are hopefully lifted, so that's all a good sign.
Exactly. You got that right. So what I want to begin with, I've asked this to a couple of my guests. We just had the Olympics last year. Were you able to watch any of it? And
a little bit.
Were you surprised that Team USA did not get gold, or do you think they could have won gold, but they kind of couldn't stand a chance because they were up against an all-star team in Team Japan?
I think the format for the Olympics, the baseball format, kind of it's a bad setup for the United States because the best players are not playing. So you have some former big leaguers, guys that did some did some good things, had good careers in the big leagues, but they're not at the top of their game. That were there mixed in with minor league players. And I don't think that's the best representation of the United States Team USA baseball. But I think they played as well as they could under the circumstances, and the medal I think was not a bad thing. It's just the way it's set up. The World Baseball Classic, which hadn't been played in a while, I think that's a better representation of all the countries, as opposed to how the Olympics is set up, because you have the best players, or more of the best players, that are playing in the World Baseball Classic.
That's what's kind of funny to me in a weird way if you kind of think about it. The MLB cares more about the World Baseball Classic because they're the ones who brought it back. They started it, I think, back in 06 or 07, but yet, when it's the Olympics time, they can give a hoot's hoot about the Olympics, even though the World Baseball Classic is still the same with country-wise. I don't understand it. Like, players want to play for...
I think for baseball in the Olympics, and I don't think it's going to be played. I think it's not going to be in Paris, right? It's gone.
Probably not. No, yeah, because from what I hear, it goes by.
We're going to see it again.
Right. From what I understand,
the Olympics for a long time. Baseball and softball.
Yeah. From what I understand, is that by the city, it goes by the city, and if whoever's hosting in the country, if they don't play baseball, then they don't play that at all in the Olympics. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, it makes sense.
Almost every European country plays baseball. France plays a good brand of baseball. I just don't think that they're putting it in the Olympics there. I think baseball and softball should be taken away from the Olympics and just playing their own tournaments like they're playing internationally and doing those things, because during the Olympics you don't have the best players. You have the best players and the best athletes in other sports, but in baseball you don't. And in basketball it was like that for a while too, until Team USA got beat, and then they started sending over to all-star teams. But unless you can have the best players competing, and if you have another stage, the World Baseball Classic and some of these other international events, just keep playing them, because there's really 5 or 6 countries that play a good brand of baseball. There's Canada, United States, Mexico, and then there's Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, and Cuba.
True.
For the most part, that play a real good brand. Dominican Puerto Rican teams, Venezuelan, they're okay. But on a national, international stage, there's probably 5 to 7 teams that can really, or countries that can really put together real good teams. So stick to those countries. I know they're trying to grow the game globally, and if you play baseball and if you play baseball in some of these other countries, it's just not a good brand right now.
I agree with you on that, and it just sucks to see, but it's true. And like you said, I don't think we're ever, even if they do have baseball, say in the Olympics, I agree with you and a lot of other guests. Money talks, and they're not going to allow, MLB is not going to allow their players to play in the summertime. I know.
It shouldn't be. Yeah.
So I agree with you on that.
Back to the true nature of the Olympics, it was supposed to be the best amateurs from the world, all over the world get together, and now it's professionals. They go back to just letting the amateurs, the college and the high school kids that are professional, let them compete. I'm all for that. That's fine.
Right. So before we get into your career, let's talk about your post-career. You, I believe, are coaching now? Or have an academy?
Yeah, I'm doing some local coaching here in Kansas City. Since COVID, I was coaching in a collegiate summer league similar to like the Cape Cod League up in East Coast. I was coaching in Victoria, British Columbia, and the West Coast League is a league that had teams from Canada, Washington, and Oregon. And it was more of your West Coast colleges, your D1, D2 schools would send kids there to play a 54-game summer season, similar to minor league baseball where you play series and you have some travel and do things like that. So I was coaching there for 2 summers. I coached and finished up my undergrad at Park University in the University of Missouri from 2012 to 2017, coaching at the collegiate level and then coaching summer ball and just doing some local coaching here in the Kansas City area with high school age kids. So it's similar to AAU travel ball here in the Midwest.
Do you find the coaching differently than college ball, high school ball? Do you find it differently than coaching, like if you were to go and do the minors or majors, or is it the same?
I prefer coaching college ball better than being in the minor leagues, because in the minor leagues you're told what players are prospects and what players aren't, and a lot of things are dictated to you from the organization on down of what you should do with players. And coaching college ball and doing summer ball, doing that, you have more freedom to do what you want to do as a coach, and not so much being told how to run things with the players. So I like that freedom to be able to do what you want to do more so than in minor league baseball, where you're being told, this is a prospect, so do this. He's going to get X amount of at-bats a year, and this pitcher, he's going to get cut off at this certain amount of time, and we want to do this with him and that with him. Those kind of things didn't really appeal to me to want to coach in professional baseball at the minor league level.
So you had a 9-year career from 90 to 99 with 5 different teams. How hard of a grind is it to play that many games, 162 in a season? And how is conditioning? What does conditioning play into a factor of that long a season when you're away from family and all that?
Well, for me, being an outfielder and specifically being a center fielder, I had to make sure that my legs were in shape, and that's what I worked on a lot in the off season, just to make sure that my lower body and my legs were in shape for the grind of all those games, and then just running around the outfield. So I did a lot more lower body work to make sure that I could get through a season, and I never went on the DL and played pretty much I was an everyday player for the 10 plus seasons or whatever, 9 plus seasons that I was in the big leagues. I was a guy that was counted on to play 145 to 155 games out of 162. And I just made sure that I got myself ready in the off season, really worked my legs and made sure they were strong, because that is what got me through. Got me through injury free. I was probably a little lucky with not having any freak injuries, running into walls or sliding into catchers or second basemen, getting hit by it. Just the freaky things that can happen during the season. I didn't miss too many games for injury pretty much for my whole career.
Now, tell us about, because you played right in the middle of your career with the lockout. Take us through that year. When were you guys told that you guys were going to be locked out of the season, and what went on through your guys in the player's mind, knowing the fact that you guys were in a lockout and you guys couldn't play for a year?
Well, we missed just a little bit of spring training. I think the lockout was in 1990. So
94,
the spring training was 90. And then the strike was in 94.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah, the strike.
Yeah, so I went through a lockout in 1990 that had a shortened spring training. Then we played pretty much 3/4 of the season in 94. Missed I think mid-August or so is when the season got canceled in 94. We probably realized that there wasn't going to be a continuation of the season or postseason in mid-September of 94, and then just started to get ready and hope there was a spring training in 95. So there was a lot of uncertainty. I was a player rep for the American League, so I was involved in a lot of negotiation and talks. So I kind of had a good idea of where things were headed and when we were going to wrap it up and get back to work again. And I thought that we would have a spring training and have a normal regular season. We didn't play a full regular season, but I knew that by March of 95 that there was going to be some sort of a season. Didn't know what the parameters were going to be, but I knew there was going to be a season. And then, I informed guys just to be ready to go by the end of March. And, I think we ended up playing 145 games or 140 or something in that range for the 95 season. Now,
if you can remember, take us through, since you said you were on that committee, what was being said between, I'm guessing it was you and the owners, right? Or was it you against the commissioner?
Yeah, the ownership group, the owners that were being, they were telling the commissioner and whoever lawyers were negotiating, they were trying to implement a salary cap and change some of the structures of the league. And the Players Association was not on board with that. And that was one of the main issues. There were a lot of other issues that were being floated around also, but the main one was that the owners wanted some cost certainty. That was a big word for them. They wanted to know going into seasons, and they wanted to they thought setting a salary cap would be something that would be beneficial to them, and they tried to pass that along to the players, that it would be, in the long run, it'd be beneficial for the players also to accept the salary cap, which, as we found out, that wasn't going to be the case. They were trying to put a drag on salaries. They had been in trouble for collusion in the 80s.
Right.
In the 80s.
Right.
So they were trying to find a way to put a drag on salaries, even though revenue was continuing to go up, and all these new stadiums were being built. That was in that era, that 6 or 7 year era when 3/4 of the league moved into a new stadium or was getting a new stadium on the books to being built, and more revenue was coming into the game through a lot of different streams. MLB.com was starting to form at that time, so there were a lot of revenue streams that were coming in. The players knew that, and the owners wanted some cost certainty and wanted to cap everything. But on the horizon were all these new stadiums, new revenue streams, the internet, all that, TV money. So players were not going to agree to a salary cap, and the owners tried to break the union and pit the younger players against some of the older players. And, it got, some of the meetings were pretty feisty, and I was very surprised that the owners took the stance that they did, and they tried to implement replacement players early in spring training in '95 and threatened to start the season with replacement players. So that was something that I did not see coming. I didn't think it was going to get to that point, but fortunately, both sides were able to come to an agreement, and we were able to play the '95 season. And I don't think there's been a work stoppage since '95.
No, there hasn't. But there was close.
We'll probably have a lockout.
Yeah.
We'll probably have a lockout in the next couple of days, but I still don't think that's going to be something that's going to drag into the regular season.
Yeah, now you beat me to it. I was actually going to ask you about that, because last year, before the 60-game season came about, there was an issue between the players and the owners as well. And like you just answered my question, you think there might be a stoppage, but it won't be that bad. They'll come to an agreement.
I think there's going to be a lockout. There'll be a stoppage in name only.
Yeah.
Because in December there's nothing going on.
Right.
So you're seeing all these free agent signings and trades and things going on.
Right.
Transaction-wise, that'll stop for a while.
Yeah.
But I think there'll still be negotiating going on, and if anything, there may be a shortened spring training. But I don't foresee anything spilling over and jeopardizing the regular season.
Now, if I'm seeing this correctly, tell me if I am. Your father was also a former major leaguer, Hal McRae. You got to manage under him. How was that experience like in Kansas City?
Yeah, he played for the Reds and the Royals, so I grew up around the ballpark, and I got called up to the big leagues late in '90. And in the '91 season, he came over probably midway through or so to manage, and he'd never seen me play a whole lot of ball.
Yeah, because he was on the road. Yeah,
because he was playing. So that was the first time he got to see me play on an everyday basis, and the first time that the family was together for the most part and not scattered all over the country. So it was a neat experience for the 4 years or so that I had a chance to play under my father. And the last 2 years in Kansas City, '93 and '94, we had real good teams. At the time of the strike, I think we were 4 games out. That had a realistic shot of making it to the postseason in '94 at the time of the strike. So there were a lot of exciting and positive things going on those last 2 years when my dad was managing the Royals.
Can you name the other two? I can think of one other, and that's the Griffeys. They were able to play and coach under each other. Can you name the other two? Because I guess there was 2 others besides you two and the Griffeys.
I think Moses Alou got to play for his dad.
Okay.
I think he was able to play in Montreal for Felipe Alou. And then I don't know if the Boones played for their father. That would be the only other ones that I could say maybe played for played for their father's management. As far as father and sons playing together,
it don't happen much at all.
No, Griffey's did it in a big league game first, but me and my father played in a spring training game in 1986.
Oh, really?
The Griffey's played in '89.
There you go. Something at least.
Big league game. But my father and I, we played in a game in spring training of 1986 together.
So like you said, you made your debut August 7th of 1990 with those Royals and under your pops. Take us through that experience of you getting a call up. Did your daddy call you, or that you knew that you were going to be called up, or who called you knowing that you were going to be called up?
My dad was coaching in Montreal at the time, so
okay, I got you. Okay, I gotcha. Never mind that.
I was in AA Memphis, Tennessee, with the Memphis, Tennessee AA team affiliate of the Royals. We were playing in Huntsville, Alabama, which was the A's affiliate, and I just got a knock on the door by my manager, Jeff Cox, at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, saying that I needed to go to the ballpark, get my stuff, because I was going to be flying to Kansas City the next morning. So that's how I went. It wasn't anything grand. I was asleep. It was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I got a knock on the door. I went to the ballpark, got my stuff, and that was the age before cell phones, so I couldn't call anybody at that point because I was on the move.
Right.
I called my mom, I think, in the Atlanta airport is where I connected before I went to Kansas City, and told her, and she was able to be there for the first game that I played in. But it was a whirlwind day, getting called up and coming to Kansas City and making my big league debut. Did not think I was going to be playing in the game that night. And I saw my name in the lineup and was playing that night, and I don't really remember a whole lot. It was a blur with everything going on, but I was excited to get the opportunity, and they said I may only be in the big leagues for a couple of weeks, and then I may get sent back down to the minor leagues. But 10 years later, I was still around. So it's one of those things where you have to take advantage of the opportunity. And Bo Jackson went down; he got hurt. I got called up, and he didn't want to play center field anymore. He wanted to stick in left. He thought that would be easier on his body, and I got called up. Played well enough to warrant sticking around the rest of the season, and then made the team as a starting center fielder opening day in 1991.
Now, your first game, did you have any goosebumps, or did you just go by thrill of the moment? Because I know
that was just kind of in a haze the whole time. Like I said, I had no sleep.
Okay.
And flying, getting to Kansas City and all the, everything that goes on that first day. I got to the ballpark, I think around 3, 4 o'clock for the 7 o'clock game. And, it was just, there was so much going on quickly, I didn't have time to be nervous. I saw my name in the lineup, got in there and played, and by the time I was able to catch my breath and calm down, I was back at the hotel with my mom hanging out after the game was over and just trying to process everything that had just transpired in the last 18 hours.
So I saw you were a switch hitter. Your batting average was 38 points higher from the right side than the left side. Take us through the art of switch hitting. How hard is it to hit switch hit?
It's hard because you're two different people. I had more power. I hit more home runs and extra base hits from the left side, but my batting average was higher from the right side. I was a natural right-handed hitter, but I didn't do a lot of damage as far as home runs and doubles and extra base hits from the right side. I was more of a singles hitter from the right side, and I think out of the 103 or 4 home runs I hit career, probably 80% of those were from the left side. So I was I was a better hitter from the left side as far as driving the ball. But my natural side was right-handed. But you have to work on two different sides. You're like two different people. And over the course of a year, one side is always better than the other. You're never really right there at the equal levels. One is ahead, and I always had to work extra, especially on my left-handed side, because that was the side that wasn't as natural for me.
And I also see you spent most of your time as a leadoff hitter. What's your mindset as a leadoff hitter?
I was not your typical leadoff hitter, so my mindset was a little bit different. I didn't walk a whole lot until later in my career. I like to swing the bat. I was just put in the leadoff position because I was one of the fastest guys on the team. I like to swing. I like to swing the bat, and I like to get on base that way. And later in my career, when I knew the leagues a little bit better and understood myself as a hitter a little bit better, I was a little bit more patient at the plate, and I hit down in the order with the Mets and sometimes with the Cubs, so I was a little bit more patient. But for most of my career, I like to get up there and between the first 3 or 4 pitches, if it was something hittable, a strike, I was swinging at it. And I wasn't really a guy trying to get on base by getting walks.
Now, like you said, you got close to the playoffs, but never made the playoffs, unfortunately. Did that sting you a bit as a player that you could never make the playoffs?
Yeah, it was frustrating because I was close, almost down to the last game of the season 4 or 5 times, where teams that I was on had a chance to make it to the postseason. So playing that many games and not getting there was a little frustrating. Seeing my friends play in the playoffs and being on teams, the '98 Cubs beat us out when I was with the Mets for the wild card, and I was on the Cubs in '97, so missed it by a year there. And then the Mets made it to the playoffs in '99 and 2000, and I was there for a little bit of the year in '99 before I got traded in the following year. So I was close to making it, but didn't quite get there. And that was something that I got to experience a lot of things in my career, but making it to the postseason, playing almost 10 years and 1,400 games or something of that, and not making it to the playoffs, not being able to taste any, late October baseball was disappointing.
Now, what about being All-Star? Did you make any All-Star teams?
No, I was close. Those All-Star games, I was close to doing that. I had a chance my best years were 93 to 98, and 93, 94, 95, and 96. I had legitimate chances to make the All-Star team and didn't do it. But outfielders like King Griffey Jr., Kenny Lofton,
right.
Guys like that. So, I put up some good numbers and had some good years, but those guys put up some better numbers also. So it was I didn't mind. The All-Star game thing to me wasn't that big of a deal because I knew that I was worthy and I played well enough.
Right.
And a lot of times that's a popularity contest. And playing in Kansas City, you weren't going to have too many years where more than 1 or 2 players was going to make it from the Royals team. So that didn't bother me much at all.
Right.
I would have liked to made an All-Star team and won a Gold Glove, but postseason was what I really wanted to do. You want to win ball games. That's your thing.
Now, you were not many players from their career get to spend time in both leagues. You did that, especially in a time in your era where it was pretty much, I want to say, half and half, dominated by the AL, half dominated by the NL. How in your mindset, since you played in both, was there a league more difficult than the other?
I thought the American League was top to bottom better, but I like the brand of baseball in the National League. And I enjoyed my 5 years in the National League more than I did my 5 years in the American League. I think my game was suited better for the style of play in the National League. So I like the National League better, but I thought that talent-wise, team for team, top to bottom, there was better players and better talent in the American League. There was better pitching in the National League.
How difficult was it to pitch? I mean, to hit against guys like that? You had Maddox, Smoltz.
The players were tough, and with the Mets in that division, they weren't a lot of fun. They had a great staff. The Padres had good staffs at the time.
Yeah, Kevin Brown.
So there were a lot of good staffs in the National League. But I just thought that at that point in my career, my game, I was able to take it to another level in the National League. And I enjoyed playing in the National League more than I did in the American League.
Now let's see if you remember this. It may have been too long ago, but I don't know. You may have remembered this. This is a big time in your career. You hit July 14th of 91. Can you remember what you did?
Yeah, I think I was in Detroit when I hit 2 home runs. I had my first 2 home run game.
Yep. You had 6 RBIs.
I had two home run games, one with the Royals and one with the Cubs, but that was one. I think I hit a 2-run home run and a grand slam, so I had like 6 RBIs.
You did.
Yep. On a hot day in Detroit.
Yep. 18-4 route against them. Pitching must have been horrible that day.
As a team, we hit 6 or 7 home runs that day.
Ouch. Ouch. Must have been an off day for Detroit.
Yeah, they weren't very good at that time.
So, again, like you said, you were a journeyman. You played for 5 teams. Honestly, I know you liked playing for those teams, but would you honestly have liked to spend your career with just one team, and that'd be the team that drafted you in the Royals?
Most players don't get to do that. I spent 10 years in the Royals organization, from 85 to 94. So I was with the Royals and Cubs most of my career. Parts of 3 years with the Mets, but the rest of the time I was with the Rockies. I only played 10 games with the Rockies, and I only played a month and a half with the Blue Jays. So really, my career was with 3 teams that I played with. It was the Royals, and I was in that organization for 10 years. Parts of 3 years with the Cubs, and parts of 3 years with the Mets. So being 5 years with one team right now is hard to do. You don't see a lot of guys that spend their whole career with the team the way the game is situated now. So I think that just being able to be in the Royals organization for 10 years, playing 5 years in the minor leagues and 5 years in the big leagues, I felt like I was a big part of the Royals organization because I've been there for that long.
Now, let's talk about your final game in 99. Did you know it was the end of your career after that game, or did you want to play again?
I went to spring and got released at the end of spring training with the Cardinals. Had a chance, opportunity to sign like a minor league deal with a couple other teams, and I also had a chance to work for ESPN and do broadcasting, which is something that I've been doing for a while. And so I just went into broadcast. I had knee surgery after the season was over, so I don't know if I was even 100% or not going into spring training in 2000. And I had an opportunity to work for ESPN, and I jumped on that opportunity and started doing broadcasting from 2000 to 2017. I broadcast from 2000 to 2008. I broadcast Major League Baseball games pretty much exclusively, and then from 2009 to 2017, I did a little bit with the Royals and did a lot of college and minor league baseball. So I wasn't really overly concerned with continuing if I had an opportunity to do something else, and broadcasting was something that I wanted to do, and my body was kind of beat up at the time from playing 15 years of professional baseball, so it didn't work out in 2000 with the Cardinals, but it did work out for me to get into broadcasting.
There you go. Yeah, because I saw that as soon you got into broadcast, you were with WGN, you were with ESPN, and like you said, a couple others. So take us through being a broadcaster, an analyst, shall I say. Is it different calling the game instead of actually being on the field, or because I know Romo, I know this is a different sport, but football, he's pretty good. He was a quarterback, so when he's analyzing it on the field of what happened, it's like he's actually on the field. Did you have to do that as a broadcaster?
Well, it was something that I've been doing in the off seasons when I was still playing. So it's something that I wanted to do. So I'd taken broadcasting classes. During the strike in '94, I went to the University of Kansas and took broadcast journalism classes. So I was prepping for whenever I got done playing to go ahead and get into broadcasting. And when I started doing it, like anything else, you make your mistakes, you learn, and as a player, I always tried to think like a manager, think along with what the managers of each team were going to do, moves they're going to make, things like that. So I think that helped me out as far as how I saw a game and how I looked at a game from my vantage point as being on the field or being in the dugout or being in the booth, because I always tried to look at it as how the coaches were trying to set things up and what they were trying to do.
Now, here's a scenario. You were a hitter. Here's a scenario. Runner on first and second. 2 outs. As a hitter. In your game of the 90s to today's game, give us 2 scenarios of what is going on through a hitter's mindset. Because you coach obviously today, and then you played in the 90s, which was a different era. That scenario, what is the mindset of a hitter?
Well, that depends on the score, the inning. Sorry,
I forgot about that. Okay, so it's the bottom of the ninth. 2 outs. 2 outs. The count for the batter is 2-2.
If it's late in the game, you're probably facing their closer or one of their top relievers. So with the count being 2-2, the reliever's trying to go to his out pitch to get a strikeout. And if you look at the scouting reports, they always say, what's his out pitch, which means what's the pitch does he like to go to in a tight situation. So you have that in the back of your mind as a hitter. You're not sitting on that pitch, but you have that in the back of your mind that he may throw that. That's something that he likes to throw to you. And then you also have to go back in your memory banks to think, when I faced this pitcher earlier in the year, how he pitched me, and things like that. So there's a lot of things that run through your mind in that situation. But you go back to your scouting report and just go back to what you know from facing him before. And if you're a right-handed hitter, it's like, how does he throw right-handed hitters in this situation? A left-handed hitter, what's he like to do to left-handed hitters in that situation? So a lot of it is just going back and remembering. And I wrote down, I had a notebook that I carried with me, and I wrote down things that pitchers do, what catchers do, so I could help, things that could help me with stealing bases, picking up signs, just things like that, along with the scouting reports that we got before each series from the advanced scouts. So I just made sure that I read those, so when I got in certain situations, I had a good idea my thought process, it might not work, but my thought process was good because I knew I had a good idea of what was going on in this situation and what they may do to combat what I could do.
Now, obviously, you got to play baseball like your father did. Did you want your kid wanting to play baseball, or did you?
I have a daughter. That's all. So that's off the table. Okay. And she's 15 and she's into music and arts.
Well, there you go. That's something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to have an athlete on my side. My brother has a son that plays high school football down at Lakewood Ranch, and my sister lives in the Tampa area. She has 2 boys and a girl. The oldest is a girl. She's a sophomore in high school. She's a golfer. So I don't think we're going to have any baseball players, college or high school, out of my brother or sister's kids, but we may have some college athletes down the road.
Well, there you go. So, next question I have is, you had a 10-year career. Give us some of your best stories you had off and on the field.
The best things are just, hanging out with your teammates. You're with them from March or late February to early October. You spend more time with your teammates than their families do during that period of time. So you have a close bond with them. You get to travel to different cities, experience different restaurants, do different things. So those were the fun things. Going to New York and having an off day and taking half the team out and going out to a nice dinner at a steakhouse in New York that you would probably never do, and getting to do that with your teammates. Just experiencing those things, the bus rides, the plane flights, playing cards on the plane, hanging out. Those are all, golf outings. Those are all fun things. On the field, just competing with your teammates and trying to win a ball game. The energy, the effort, and everything that goes into a 9-inning ball game. When you see these guys work every day in spring training and put their work in, and guys that come 6 o'clock in the morning to get treatment, to prepare themselves for a game, there's a special bond that's created over the course of the season when you see that, and then when you play with the same guys over and over again year after year. A 3-hour game means a lot when you put that kind of effort, concentration, into it. So it creates something special, especially for teams that were good, but even teams that aren't. There's still something to be said about trying to work towards a common goal when you have that many guys working hard and putting that much into it, and you sense that. So there's something special about a group. So those were the fun things, on the field, off the field, just by being one of. There's only been 22 or 23,000 people that have ever walked the face of this earth that have played Major League Baseball. So you're one of them. You're in that small fraternity, and to be able to compete every day is a blessing, and it's something that's pretty cool, and that we never did take for granted.
Now, 2-part question. Since you were obviously a hitter, in your career, who'd you have the most success against, pitcher-wise, and who dominated you, pitching-wise?
I don't know who I had the most success. I know I hit well against the Padres staff and the Giants and some of those teams. I hit well against. As far as individual pitchers, I don't know. That I struggled against the Braves staff. I know I struggled against them. The Blue Jays had a real good staff when I was in the American League. I remember I didn't hit well against the Blue Jays. I didn't hit well in the dome. There, as far as like individual players that I thought I hit well, I'm not sure. I know some of the guys that are the Hall of Famers. Dennis actually, I had a couple of home runs off of him. Roger Clemens, even though he's not in the Hall of Fame, he probably should. I had good numbers. I think I had good numbers against Clemens, Pedro Martinez. I think I had some good days against those guys. Nolan Ryan, I got a couple of hits off Nolan Ryan. I don't know if my numbers were good against Ryan, but it was just fun to say I competed against those guys.
Do you still talk to anybody that you played against or played for?
I still, in my travels, I would still see, Pat Mahomes Sr. was a teammate of mine with the Mets, and with his son playing here with the Chiefs, I see him from time to time when he comes into Kansas City. So there's a lot of guys that still keep in touch and get together from time to time.
There you go. So let's talk a little about today's game. You obviously coach it, and there wasn't much of this back in the 90s when you played. Do you like it, how much it's analytics driven now?
I think there's a place for it, but some organizations I think put too much emphasis on it and don't use the baseball people that they have or had in their organization, the eyes and ears, and understand that analytic-driven teams, some of them have done well with it and how they use it, and other ones have not. But the true test, the analytics can't tell you if a guy is a team player or not. They don't tell you if he's able to play injured or what happens in tough situations, if he can handle playing in New York or playing in LA or playing in analytics don't tell you what kind of character a guy is. It's just spitting out numbers. And I think that what you saw with some teams in the postseason, what some of the moves that the Braves made, if it was just analytics, they might not have done those things.
Right.
And they ended up winning the World Series. And I know their manager is not a guy that's, he looks at the numbers, but he doesn't do everything that the numbers tell you to do. Like some managers, it looks like everything's scripted. If it says this, you do this. Like you don't go by what your gut says or what your feel is.
Right. So now I gotta ask you, Hall of Fame. I know you're not a voter. Nobody is. But do you think that guys who were in the steroid era should be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, I just think that I look at numbers, and if there's analytics, you look at numbers. These guys put up numbers that are Hall of Fame worthy, and once you start putting some guys in the Hall of Fame that people suspected or thought they might have been using, that opens up the door for everybody else. So you can't have 2 or 3 guys in that people suspect that we're using, and then the other guys you can't leave them out. So I think the next 2 or 3 years of all-star ballots, because there's guys that I think that are in there now, and I'm not going to mention names, probably know, but I think there's some guys in there now that people suspected were using, and they're in. So why are they in and other guys aren't?
True.
If they have Hall of Fame numbers.
True. Now tell the 2 commissioners. I know you've seen what Manfred does, and obviously you played with C-League. Out of the 2, who is the better commissioner? Well,
I think that C-League did more for the game, even though I don't think he was a good commissioner because he owned the team. Mm-hmm. So that it's kind of hard when you have you have a vested interest in your investment and your team in Milwaukee. But I think he was able to grow the game better than what Manfred has done so far. Because you see, in Sealy's era, those new stadiums got built.
Right.
TV money went up.
Right.
MLB.com, revenue stream, all these new revenue streams came in when Sealy was there. World Baseball Classic, things like that. All these things came to. I'm not going to give him credit for all of that, but it came under his watch.
So
the game flourished under his watch.
So
maybe in spite of him, but it did.
I have to agree with you on that because Manfred, I don't think he's really done nothing besides hide the cheating that's been going on in baseball, especially in 2018. I don't think he.
Yeah, I don't think we'll find out what kind of commissioner he is until we get this CBA signed and move on, and then we'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
So, I thought you had a successful career. I know I'm not even going to.
I think everybody that played in the big leagues is successful. Right. Myself.
Right. And I'm not even going to ask you. I'm not even going to ask you the Hall of Fame question because I know what you're going to tell me already. But I think you had a good career. Looking back at your career, what was it a complete success to you? And what you wanted to do?
I played almost 10 years in the big leagues. The average career is 4 years. I was an everyday player for pretty much the whole time I was in the big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to accomplish some things that I didn't ever think I was going to accomplish. And, you play every day. You make it to the big leagues. You play more than 4 years. All those things to me, I didn't make the postseason, but I was happy to be able to have a successful, almost 10-year major league career.
That I couldn't have said any better. So, a couple more questions before I let you go. The first one is, if you were a hitter coming up, what would you tell him, and what advice would you give him?
If what?
If you were a kid getting into the game as a hitter, what advice would you give him, and how would you help him succeed along the way as a hitter?
As a hitter?
Yeah.
I would tell them to not try to overanalyze everything like most hitters today are doing, and just try to keep things as simple as possible. Don't talk about launch angle and exit velocity and all those things. Just try to hit the ball hard, and good things will happen. But don't worry about all these other terminologies and things that are out there. When you get up to the plate, try to get a good pitch to hit, understand your strike zone, get a strike, and just try to hit the ball hard.
And last question I have for you is, the 5 teams you played for, they haven't been successful throughout the years. Recently. The Royals were successful about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, the Royals won the World Series, the Cubs won the World Series, and the Mets won the World Series, so they had some success. Yeah.
But as of right now, as of 2-3 years ago, what do your teams that you played for need to do to get back to the playoffs?
I think the Cubs are going to rebuild. So they had a good run of 5 years where they went to 3 National League championship games.
Yes.
So they're going to have to take a step back and rebuild. The Royals, went to the World Series in 14 and 15, so it's been 7 years now.
Yep.
They're in a rebuilding stage. The Mets, they're spending a lot of money. I don't know if that's going to make them any better, but they're closer to playoff contention than the Royals or the Cubs, I think. I think they're a long way from playoff contention, and the Blue Jays have one of the best young teams in baseball. So I think the Blue Jays and the Mets are the closest to being playoff teams, and the other ones are probably 3 to 5 years away.
I couldn't agree with you more. I agree. It was fun. Thank you for coming on. Short notice. I appreciate it. You're more than welcome to come on. You're more than welcome to come on as many times. And hey, when you're in this area, hit me up. Let's meet up sometime when you're in this area. Since
I'll let you know when I come back down.
So maybe we'll hit up a Rays game or something if you're in the area.
Okay, that sounds good.
But yeah, it was fun. I got your contact. Please share it. As more viewers, more better. And if you know anybody that's interested, have them hit me up for an interview.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on.
Definitely, it was fun. I'll send you the copy of the episode, and that way you can have it to listen as well. But yeah, it was fun.
Okay. You take care.
You too. Enjoy. Stay safe, okay?
All right.